Welcome to today's short Bible study video on the gospel for this Sunday. Just so you know, I'm starting the adult forum again in person this week. We're going to start about 9:10 or so. And at the forum, I'll talk in more detail about the gospel for each week. And if you're coming to our in-person services on Sunday, I invite you to attend. It'll be about a 30-minute class, and we're going to meet in the conference room off the gathering area. You're welcome to join us. Well, this Sunday's gospel is from John chapter 10, and in it, Jesus says this: I am the good shepherd. I am. In John's gospel, Jesus makes a series of what are called the I am statements. And these are not just Jesus using the first person present active indicative of the verb to be. The I am statements are quite important in John's gospel, and you don't find anything like them in Matthew, Mark, or Luke. In John chapter 6, Jesus says, I am the bread of life. In John 8, he declares, I am the light of the world. In the section just before today's gospel, in John 10, Jesus tells his listeners, I am the door for the sheep, the door for the enclosure where the sheep are safely kept. And then there's today's gospel statement, I am the good shepherd. In John 14, on the last night of his life, Jesus told his troubled disciples, I am the way and the truth and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. And finally, on that same evening, in John chapter 15, Jesus told them, I am the true vine. To understand the importance of what Jesus was saying, you have to go way back to Exodus chapter 3 and the story of Moses at the burning bush. In this story, the Lord appears to Moses in a bush that was on fire but was not consumed by the flames. The Lord told Moses, if you remember the story, to go back to Egypt and confront Pharaoh with the divine command, let my people go. Moses, unsure of who it was who was appearing to him, and we need to remember that according to Exodus, Moses was raised in the royal household of an Egyptian princess, and later, after fleeing Egypt, he spent 40 years living in the foreign land of Midian. So we can't assume that Moses knew who the Lord was, the God of the Hebrews. Moses asked the deity appearing to him in the burning bush who he was. What is your name? What do I tell people? Who sent me? He asks. And the voice responds, I am who I am. And whenever in your English Bible you see the word Lord in all capital letters, that word is the English rendering of the Hebrew words with which the Lord answered Moses. I am who I am. Back to Jesus now. When Jesus proclaimed his I am statements, he was equating himself with the Lord, the God of Israel. Jesus was the Son of God. He possessed the same divine divinity as the one who appeared to Moses so many centuries before. That gives the I am statements some very serious theological weight. Jesus is saying something important about himself. I am the good shepherd, he says in today's gospel. Now, of course, shepherds were common and familiar in Jesus' time, and people would certainly know what he was talking about. And people in Jesus' time, they would have seen good shepherds, and they would have seen bad shepherds. I am the good shepherd, Jesus said. And then he explains what makes him a good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep, Jesus said. And with those words, you need to think only back to the stories of that youth David in the Old Testament. David, who was a teenager, was a shepherd. David, who used his famous sling to slay a bear and a lion trying to make a snack on the flocks he was guarding. David risked laying down his life for his flock. And that's what Jesus said he will do as well. He tells his listeners that the hired hand, not the good shepherd, the hired hand will flee when he sees danger in the form of a wolf or something approaching the flock. The sheep aren't his. He's just earning a paycheck. It's not worth losing his life over that. He is out of there. But not so the good shepherd. Not so Jesus. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, he says. And then he expands things to include his relationship with his Father, his heavenly Father. He says, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. Jesus talked repeatedly about his intimate relationship with his Father. It would be at the center of his long speech and prayer when he gathered with his disciples in the last night of his life in John's Gospel. Because Jesus' relationship with his flock and with his Father was so close, he will say, I lay down my life for the sheep. He was willing to make the ultimate personal sacrifice for the sake of those for whom he cared. He would demonstrate this a short time later when he died on the cross to save the world, to save his flock. And then he says something interesting and a little confusing. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd. So who are these other sheep? That is a very good question. And the best answer to this is probably found in John chapter 12. I preached on this passage last month. When Jesus entered Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, he began teaching and preaching in the temple. And while he was doing so, a group of Greeks, a group of non-Jews, came seeking to meet him. And when Jesus was told by several of his disciples that he had these Greeks coming to seek him, he says something very interesting. The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. The request by these Greeks seems to have been the catalyst for Jesus to declare his coming glorification, which is how Jesus referred to his death on the cross in John's Gospel. It may be that these Greeks, these are the other sheep, not of his flock, who have come seeking to be part of the Good Shepherd's flock. And Jesus continues the quote from John. For this reason the Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own accord. I have the power to lay it down, and I have the power to take it up again. I have received this command from my Father. The Good Shepherd makes this sacrifice on his own for the sake of his sheep. Jesus will make his life-offering sacrifice on his own for the sake of his flock. He will lay down his life, and he will take it up again, perhaps a way of referring to his resurrection. The language of laying down one's life and the command to do so appears again in John's Gospel. In John chapter 15, again, as Jesus met with his disciples on the last night of his life, he said this to his followers, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for his friends." The Good Shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. Jesus will lay down his life at his Father's command for his sheep. And Jesus commands his disciples, whom in John 15 he now refers to as his friends, to lay down their lives for one another. Jesus connects all these things as he tells us who he is and what he has come to do. He is the Good Shepherd who will lay down his life for his sheep and for all of us. I pray these short words have inspired you, opened your mind to the scriptures, and will help you better understand Pastor Heidi's message on Sunday.